Welcome to this video tutorial with Virtual Racing School in the Mazda MX-5 Cup on iRacing. This week we're at Summit Point Raceway, where I've driven a lap in default afternoon weather to match the official series. I'll play the lap in full for you first before then going into further analysis. Okay, so that was 1 minute 21.728. Starting off then on the VRS app, from the list of data packs, choose the Mazda MX-5 Cup data pack as driven by myself and choose week 1. This will load up the session details where you can download the lap files to compare your driving against and the replay. The setup is just the baseline setup supplied by iRacing. So I'm going to click on Learn Track. This will load up the driving analyzer and it will play my lap through with the telemetry channels overlaid. So if you're unfamiliar with this, you've got a steering angle input trace through the duration of the lap, as well as a speed trace, brake and throttle input traces, and live driving inputs at the bottom left. So to start things off, we'll click on the opening straight, which is literally just from the start finish line to the braking zone for turn 1, which obviously is a very tight right hand hairpin, so you want to keep the car fully over to the left hand side, hug the left hand edge of the track, and we'll go to the opening corner sector, which is turns 1 and 2. And what I'll do here is I'll slow it down to half speed and mute it so we can see in a bit more detail. Basically, you're spotting the row of 3 cones. That's going to be your braking reference, or just after those. You can brake really quite late in this car. It's underpowered, it's got plenty of grip, and threshold braking here is about 50 or 60%. Any more than that and you're just basically full ABS engagement, and there's no point in braking any harder than that. So braking quite hard here in a straight line. You can see I'm right foot braking, I'm heel and toe downshifting, blipping the throttle as I downshift, and you do need to go all the way down into second gear, but as you can see I start turning in just after the start of this runoff area on the entry, but I'm still in third when I turn in, and I have a late downshift into second, and that late downshift just helps the car to rotate. I keep a nice tight apex. I'll just show you the chase camera view of that. So hooking up with the apex there really nicely. You've got this concrete paved area which has a little bit more grip, I believe, and you want to be just on the inside of that, which helps you around. And the car doesn't have much power, so you can commit to full throttle relatively quickly there, and you'll need quite an early upshift into third gear, otherwise you'll just run straight into the rev limiter if you're not careful. And then down in towards turn 3, hugging the right hand edge of the track. We'll skip to turn 3 and avoid the straight. Approaching here, you've got this access road off to the right. You're going to be braking just after that, and it's going to be a very small brief dab on the brakes just to get a little bit of speed off, and then you're going to kind of play with the brakes and the throttle. You can see I'm damming the throttle and just breathing on the brake just to rotate the car and tuck the nose in, get the front end loaded up, and I'm aiming for this inside curb, and you can see that I've already picked up the throttle quite aggressively at that point, straight to about 70%, and yeah, I'm aiming for this inside curb, which is quite tall, and that's why I've not committed to 100% throttle straight away. So that curb will allow you to take a tighter line and a faster line through this left-hander, but you can't overcommit on the throttle until the car has come off the curb and settled. And you can see even so I still get a little bit of oversteer there on the exit, which you can also see in the steering trace there as well. On the exit, use all of the track. You can actually drop a wheel off into the gravel there without too much trouble, but you want to be as neat and tidy as possible so you don't lose momentum. Up over the crest then, you want to be hugging the left-hand edge of the circuit. There's a little bit of extra tarmac to the left there, which I'll just show you in chase view. So you want to take advantage of that if you need to. It's going to open up the next right-hander, which is completely flat out, and you'll see I do actually take a little bit more curb than is optimal there, and you'll see from the onboard view that the car just gets a little bit unsettled as a result. And then into turns 4 and 5, there isn't really much of a braking reference here at all, so what I tend to do is brake as soon as the car starts to straighten up after turn 3. So then I'm hard on the brakes, and I'm roughly in the middle of the circuit here, so I'm threshold braking again to about 50%, and the car is a little bit unstable at this point, and I've tried to just open the corner up a little bit so I'm in the right hand half of the circuit divided by these white painted lines, and turning in fairly late down into second gear as well. And one thing that I didn't point out is that you want to hold the brakes all the way into the apex again, just to keep the front end loaded up. Try and get on this curb if you can. It will pull the inside wheel around, even if you've just got the very edge of it like I have there. And then on the throttle, again, not over committing to full throttle straight away, being patient and trying to stay inside of this concrete paved area, which is quite characteristic of this circuit. A short upshift into third gear, still flat out into turn 6 and 7. I'll just skip forward here. Again, there's not much of a reference. There is this protrusion in the tyre barrier which you could use as a braking point. Down into second gear again, and there's a little bit of camber or banking on the apex here where you've got this concrete paving, so you want to try and hook up into that, and again hug this curb nice and closely. And you can see there I just dabbed the brakes very briefly there just to load up the inside front tyres, just to help the car rotate, before then committing hard on the throttle at the apex. A short hesitation before I commit to 100% throttle, and then through this corner it opens up a little bit and then retightens if you get your line right. And in the early laps, when the tyres are nice and fresh, you should have enough grip here to be completely flat out. So up into third, keeping the car turning, keeping the car rotating, spotting your apex nice and early, getting close to this curb, but I would recommend staying just off it as I've done there, keeping the car rotating, exiting in the middle of the circuit, and then aiming for the entry here into turn 8 and then turn 9. So we'll go to that next one, just skip forward, and you want to be aiming for this curb on the left, flat out in third gear. Now it tends to pull the inside tyres over to the left, so you tend to get hooked around if you're not too careful. So just be aware of that, and it's also pretty much the exact moment when you're going to be upshifting into fourth gear. And as a result, you'll see I lift to upshift, but then I hesitate and modulate the throttle, don't commit to full throttle for a little while. So I'm just waiting for the car to resettle here in anticipation of some oversteer. And you can see that my car is directed or aimed back over to the left hand side here, because I want to open up the next right hander of turn 9 as much as possible within reason. And then if you do that nicely, what you can do is remain completely flat out through turn 9, and again it's cambered in the apex, and you've got this tall apex curb. You want to get as close to that as possible, but avoid making contact with it. And then the car will move around quite a lot on the exits. You want to open up the steering, so you can see I'm completely straight with the steering wheel just there, and in anticipation of oversteer. So just let the car run out, use all of the track. If you need to lift off the throttle, then do so. Don't hesitate in doing that. It's better to take an earlier lift than it is to lift too late when you've lost momentum. And you can see here that I'm right up, using all of the track there, almost in the grass. I just about got away with that and carried maximum possible exit speed. We'll jump straight to the entry into turn 10 now, which is just after the bridge here. Arriving in 5th gear, you want to be upshifting into 5th gear if you've got a good exit. And then there's not really much of a braking reference to use here. However, if you want, there is a slight discoloration in the grass on the entry where I guess people have dropped wheels off. Just before there, you want to be braking in 5th gear, a quick downshift into 4th, and braking quite gently, so it's quite a high speed final corner this, so you don't want to be braking any harder than about 30%. And it's really just about setting the car up for the perfect apex and exit, because your exit is very important here. You've got a very long straight afterwards. So you can see on the entry, I'm just lining it up, trying to get my timing right so that I can commit to full throttle really confidently at the apex itself. So again, you can see I'm bleeding off the brakes very gently, holding on to the brakes, playing with the throttle just a little bit just to stabilize the car before then braking again one last time to get that last bit of final rotation before then committing to full throttle just before I apex. And you can see as I commit to full throttle, I open up the steering. So I go from using quite a lot of steering lock to opening up the steering in anticipation of some oversteer, and then I'm just allowing the car to run out all the way onto this exit curb, which has a very wide flat area of runoff, so you can really take advantage of that to the maximum, and try and carry as much speed out of there as you possibly can. This car is very much about momentum, so you want to try and carry the speed as much as possible, and then just keeping things nice and settled to finish the lap. You can find all setups, replays and telemetry for your own use and analysis on virtualracingschool.com, where you can also book one-on-one tuition with world champions from the likes of Coanda Simsport. Good luck for this week, and feel free to post any questions or comments below. Thanks for watching.